If you're into crypto, the most important thing going on right now as we speak has got to do with this character right here. Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried. His trial is starting today. And like I posted on my Twitter, the jury selection is beginning today, October 3rd, in Manhattan Federal Court. The trial is expected to last up to 6 weeks if he's found guilty of all 7 criminal counts and is given the maximum sentence. Sam Bankman-Fried, would face the prospect of 110 years in prison. SBF's biggest challenge, which is it's a hefty one, is going to be that his former colleagues are going to testify against him, said Howard Fisher, a partner with Moses Singer and a former senior trial lawyer at the SEC. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but Twitter is also filled with these different clips of different people that were close to Sam Bankman-Fried, basically exposing him. I mean, they're saying that he wanted to pay Donald Trump, or at least was in negotiations, to pay Trump $5 billion not to run for president again in 2024. It's also being said that Bankman-Fried agreed to pay Tom Brady $55 million for about a day of his time and Giselle $20 million before FTX collapsed. So yeah, it's not looking good for him, at least not thus far. Here's, for example, another ex-SEC lawyer who's given 3 reasons why he'll be convicted. And again, his main point is Sam Bankman-Fried has simply refused to shut the motherfrickin' frick up. And so he simply dug his own grave. I was a little bit low here. I should put it a little bit higher. Anyway, guys, if you've not done it yet, make sure you go ahead and press the like button on this video. I try to always get you guys the most on-point news as soon as possible. And there's 2 additional things that I think are very interesting. Number 1 is over on Twitter. There's the @Satoshi account. If you don't know, Satoshi Nakamoto is the founder of Bitcoin, or at least we don't know exactly who it is. There are some theories as to who it is, but hey, we don't officially know who it is. But that Twitter account that controls the @Satoshi handle, which I believe is actually being controlled by Craig Wright, the founder of Bitcoin Cash, who also owns @Bitcoin over on Twitter, which, by the way, has blocked me for some reason. I at least found it pretty interesting that this @Bitcoin has blocked me, and also some of the people that regularly come onto @Bitcoin. And I guess perhaps because we talk about XRP a lot. Otherwise, I wouldn't know why they would go against me. But that's besides the point. Bitcoin is a predicate machine. Over the following months, we shall explore different aspects that were not explicitly contained within the white paper. These aspects are all parts of Bitcoin and are important. Some of these ideas were touched upon in the early years. Now is the time to extrapolate and explain. And honestly, I think this message has a lot more power than might meet the eye. Not because, oh, this is really Satoshi, because I don't think it really is. I just don't think this would be the best way to actually prove it's you. I personally think if you really wanted to prove it, do it by proving you own the master addresses, so to speak, or some of the extremely old addresses, or prove you own the million Bitcoin, because then everybody would listen. This is like shooting in the dark a little bit. It's like, hey, I own it. Trust me, because, well, I own the domain, right? But you don't own any of the IOP in a different example. Anyway, this is a community notes, which is funny. This isn't the real Satoshi, creator of Bitcoin. It's an account related to Craig Wright, who claims to be Satoshi with no material proof. Well, if you say that, he's going to sue you, so please, for the sake of not getting sued, we all love you, Craig Wright. Thank you so much for creating Bitcoin. We all love you. And you sure are the creator of Bitcoin. Wow, yeah. I 100% think you are. And I would never say anything that would go against that line of thinking, because, again, I do not want to get sued. No, that's not the reason. It's because I really think you're it. The account below is rumored to be the real Satoshi, one of only 2 accounts posting about Bitcoin in 2009 with 𝗕𝗓𝗓. And again, we shall never know exactly who is Satoshi, or we might, but at least do not know just quite yet. And 2 accounts that basically do come quite close to it is either 𝗕𝗓𝗓 himself or with a group, or at least being closely involved, but that's a really long story for a different day. And potentially just, I guess, this account. There's so much more to explain to this story. The reason I said this might actually be a lot more powerful, has a lot more damage that meets the eye, is actually because of the idea that Satoshi could still be around, right? It's mostly expected that he's actually dead. He's no longer among us, and so he can no longer actually move those coins, but it's hard to actually prove that, all right? Nobody can prove that it can never be moved, and so the idea sometimes is still there, that Bitcoin was created by, some US agency, some Russian agency, whatever, and that at some point this whole thing is going to collapse as they prove ownership. And this message on Twitter just makes people realize again that we are indeed overlooking the idea that Satoshi at some point could move, or that indeed the creators had bad intentions from the start. We don't think so, but it's really, really hard to pinpoint that with actual accuracy because it's decentralized. If Satoshi with the million Bitcoin just wants to sell it all right now, I mean, there's nothing necessarily stopping him from just completely wrecking his own system and becoming fiat rich. Would it make sense? No. But could it theoretically speaking happen? Yes. But even just him showing that he's alive might actually do something really, really bad for crypto. They probably calculated this if he's not dead, and they knew it's not the best course of action. And in theory, it could also be that this was already a wealthy individual who made this system, and so doesn't necessarily need the money, but wanted to change the world, which again could be, I guess, explained by the white paper that was also written. But another interesting point there could be, what do they think this is all turning into as ETFs and things like that? That was never the intention. It's not really peer-to-peer money anymore if it's mostly the institutions playing the game, right? Anyway, to kind of go along with the story that we were talking about before, apparently, all right, crypto is also not as much anymore about just people moving money around and things of that nature. It's becoming a lawsuit game. It's becoming an SEC-dominated game. And a lot of the hype and speculation, this is actually, again, from the whole Satoshi debacle, a lot of the hype, a lot of the price movements, it stems from actions outside of just it being a peer-to-peer money type of system. Here's just Satoshi again tweeting something. It's not being expected that after he tweets the price goes down, which could again happen here. Looking at this chart though, one of the most interesting parts is that even if we do come back down, as long as we actually don't go below $15,000 or so, we actually make a higher low, and that could actually still look pretty bullish just on this chart. Anyway, I just quickly got distracted with that. Binance CEO faces legal action over alleged use of Twitter to hurt FTX. Investors affected by the collapse of FTX have sued Binance and CZ, blaming them for the exchange's downfall. Plaintiffs accuse Binance and CZ of violating unfair competition laws and Securities and Exchange Commission laws. So this whole debacle is getting significantly more difficult, all right? We already knew of all these different guys who were testifying against Sam Bankman-Fried, and so we're expecting that he is in a really shitty situation. But what we're not thinking about is exactly how it came to be that they were doing all these crazy things. I mean, for the most part, Binance it's actually a little bit of a longer story as to how we knew FTX was a big 𝗕𝗓𝗀 and where exactly it went wrong. There's a lot that had to do with licenses, which eventually got Binance to pull out because of a merger and acquisition situation. Story for a different day. The point here being, Binance pulled out. That was really strange. They got $2.2 billion. And then a little bit afterwards, CZ said, well, we pulled out because, and people took the hint. And I mean, ZC did not really try to make it better. He actually kind of made it worse. I mean, he did indeed you might think about this differently, but in my opinion, he did indeed tweet to hurt FTX. You might say, no, he did this to try and protect people. I mean, perhaps so, but that's the same as saying the SEC is protecting people. Even though they might, in theory, have the right intentions, the way they're acting is the exact opposite, because CZ did bring a lot of fear. And again, he was right because FTX was a piece of garbage, and so it was a great Ponzi scheme with a lot of dumb stuff. So he was right to call it out, but it did get a lot more people hurt, I guess, just depending on how you think about it. And then again, that's a matter of, well, if you're calling out a Ponzi scheme for what it is, are you in the wrong? I don't think so. I mean, if FTX was fully fine, all this fear, in theory, did not matter because as many people as they wanted could take their money out and nothing would happen, right? People said at that time, what if some big party were to say this about Binance too? Would they be able to pay it all back? And Binance said, well, regardless of what they do, we'll always be able to pay our users because we've got your money backed up. And again, we cannot really test that hypothesis, but I would not say that Binance is in the wrong for unfair competition law violations if they're literally saying, hey, our competitors are fraudsters, and it turns out they're actual fraudsters. Is that really something bad that they should be punished for? If you've invested in a company and you're taking your money out because things go wrong and you're saying outright, hey, these guys are a freaking fraud, even though it's not that direct, well, are you then a bad guy? I wouldn't think so. Then again, the complaint is saying that they said a lot of things which were not true. And that's, again, where a lot of this might actually come to light in terms of how CZ or Binance tried to manipulate all these prices. I've not read it too deeply, but after some lawyers take a good look, we'll find that out. On Sunday, November 6, 2022, Zhao tweeted, due to recent revelations that have came to light, we decided to liquidate any remaining FTT on our books. This statement was false and misleading because Binance had already sold and moved 23 million FTT, about $530 million, before making the statement. This statement was intentionally misleading and intended to cause the price of FTT and in the market to decline. Which again, my answer to this is, it kind of depends on how long before that they got rid of their tokens, because at the end of the day, MicroStrategy posts, hey, we've just bought Bitcoin, mostly a month after they did. And I guess any entity that's public usually also lets the people know a significant amount, or I can even say private, I guess, companies. They say it a significant amount of time later after they've bought. So even though it's in the books already, they did like make these announcements later. Another part that I'd like to point out is that I am honestly not sure. This is my personal opinion. You can definitely debate this. I'm not sure that it was in Binance's best interest to actually let FTX fall. From the reason I'm saying I'm not so sure is because from a perspective of market share, yeah, Binance definitely got themselves in a really, really good position now. But for two reasons, I might think it's really bad. One is their profit went down by 90% or so. All right, the crypto market had a very big dip. Confidence went down a lot. But on the second part is that the implications from all this law and all the regulations that Binance will be able to get are now becoming double, triple, quadruple as hard, more timely, more expensive, more annoying, more impossible, leading more countries to just completely blacklisted now, it not getting the same reputation as before, and all this extra pressure from all these regulators. I'm not sure if that actually was all worth it for FTX to go down. Market share is one thing, but actual revenue is the other, and revenue went down most likely a very significant amount, even though their market share might have gone up. And again, their progress in the grand scheme of things might have also gone down significantly, even though their market share has gone up. You got to also see it like this. If you're a couple of different entities at the top, they're not specifically targeting you as much. But now that Binance shut down the competition, in theory, right? I'm not saying it's only them because, I mean, they were a fraud. But now that the competition is gone, all eyes are pointed on you. But hey, that's exactly what's going on right now. It's going to be interesting to see everybody go turn against Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried. It's interesting to see another fraud. Satoshi, the founder of Bitcoin, posting again. Again, it is interesting though that this is the first post in 5 years. You might ask yourself why, and that we do not yet know. Why all of a sudden after 5 years are they starting to tweet out? Perhaps it's because our second Satoshi, Mr. Bankman-Fried, is going to jail. Oh, sorry, is going to trial. And perhaps this date is more important than we think. I'm not so sure, but yeah, it's a very interesting situation. And that was it for today's little crypto update. Again, the markets dipped a little bit today. People all of a sudden are very fearful again. No, guys, I'm still extremely bullish, and the only way is up.